from around the world. And from CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. And tonight, a special report by Mike Wallace, a Soviet spy in the American government.
Good evening. President Reagan sends his 1983 budget to Congress Monday, and by all forecasts, a record amount of it will be written in red ink. Susan Spencer has learned some of the details of the proposed new budget.
Budget documents were delivered to Congress this morning, and almost before they hit the congressmen's desks, the leak machinery went into action. Materials made available through congressional sources indicate that Mr. Reagan's 1983 budget will have a deficit of $91.5 billion, a reflection in part of an 18% increase in defense spending. Defense would then consume 29% of the total 1983 budget and is thus a likely target for congressional anger. Information provided shows that the social programs, by contrast, would be hit hard. The president's budget calling for cuts of some $27 billion below current spending levels, $13 billion of it from entitlement programs, $14 billion more from other sources. Some of the specifics likely to generate controversy: a planned $2.5 billion cut from Medicare, nearly that much from food stamps, $2 billion from Medicaid, $300 million from programs involving maternal and child health and nutrition. In the education area, $500 million from Title I, aid aimed at the disadvantaged, $700 million cut from the Pell Grant program for needy students. Energy conservation programs would drop more than $3.5 million. Energy assistance for the poor down $450 million. Budget Director Stockman briefed Republican congressional leaders on the details late this afternoon and then admitted it isn't going to be easy.
The whole thing will be difficult. It's never easy to cut the budget. On the other hand, we're facing some pretty severe deficits, and it's going to be a matter of weighing the choices available.
Democrats who haven't been briefed but who have been efficient in obtaining documents said they were stunned.
I find that this administration has a constant capacity to surprise me by the total lack of concern that they show for the poor and the unfortunate in the society.
What you're doing is systematically seeing the destruction of the federal government. The Russians couldn't do it, but here's Mr. Reagan doing it and getting applause for it. It's incredible.
Democrats are upset, too, at the very economic assumptions on which they say this budget is based. Congressional sources say the administration assumes a growth rate for fiscal '83 of 5%. It assumes the interest rate on Treasury bills will be 10.5%. And congressional experts think that both estimates are far too optimistic. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
President Reagan's top aides and closest advisors were at Camp David today. The president himself did not go. A spokesman said he would get a full report later. White House correspondent Leslie Stahl reports that officials worked hard to characterize the meeting as mostly routine. There have been increasingly strong reports from Capitol Hill that a major shakeup in the White House staff, and possibly including one or more cabinet members, might be in the making. For example, several Republican senators have been saying privately they believe presidential advisor Ed Meese is about to be shifted. But most White House sources who would comment, even without identification, claimed tonight they had no reason to believe that any of these reports are true, and insisted that today's unusual Camp David session had nothing to do with staff changes. At first, it sounds like a rare burst of unexpected good economic news. The Labor Department today reported that the nation's jobless rate dropped last month for the first time since July. It declined 0.3%, from 8.8% in December to 8.5% in January. But government analysts saw no real improvement in the labor market. Ray Brady explains why.
I work for $2.10 an hour right now, because I don't want to lose my home, I don't want to lose my car.
I'm waiting for a sheet metal job with some welding involved, anything to beat the boredom.
I've been in the same house 32 years, and I had to sell it. I'm going broke.
The fact of the matter is, over 10 million Americans are still without jobs. Today's dip, say the experts, is only a quirk due to the way government statisticians count the unemployed. By their count, there are fewer Americans in the workforce because some 300,000 people may simply have stopped looking for work. And when they stop looking, the government stops counting them. Result, fewer unemployed workers in the figures and a lower unemployment rate. The Labor Department itself warned the figures show there's no real improvement in the job market. a fact they already know in Eugene, Oregon. Things are so tough here, the local newspaper has been giving people free space to advertise their skills. Yet even that hasn't helped Carol Martinez.
I'm an accountant, and I have 15 years experience and a bachelor's degree, business administration.
And there's nothing?
If there is work, I haven't found it.
On the other side of the country, Connecticut's largest employer, Pratt & Whitney, last week laid off another 880 workers, bringing to nearly 4,000 the number let go by the manufacturer of aircraft engines. Today's Labor Department figures show that manufacturing and industry, the heart of the American economy, remain hard hit. Another 235,000 workers lost their jobs last month. Also in the report, another indication of the economic slowdown. The number of hours worked by Americans last month fell to an all-time low, an average of only 34 hours a week on the job. That means smaller paychecks, less money to buy things like appliances. Bad news for General Electric workers in Louisville, Kentucky, a city already suffering from its highest unemployment ever. Just this afternoon, 1,700 more GE workers lost their jobs. And the way things are going, some economists predict there will be other workers joining them, so that next month's unemployment figures are likely to take off again. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
A Labor Department statistician said today that January's unemployment figures are more difficult than usual to interpret. Analysts agree that this is, to say the least, a puzzling economy. Unemployment is now the nation's chief economic concern, but the housing industry also is in a recession. With all that in mind, Steve Croft went to Oklahoma City, where even people with jobs can't find housing.
Among the nation's displaced jobless, the whispers are growing louder. There's work in Oklahoma.
There is more work here, I think, than anywhere else. And I was lucky enough to get a job working for a drilling company. And after the third day I was here.
But as Alan Ballard found out, getting a job may be the easiest part of making it in Oklahoma City. There is no place to live. He and his wife and their 6 kids are holed up in one tiny room, sharing a bathroom with 3 other families.
This is before we wind up for $100 a week. We had to let the landlord hold the pink slip to our car till I get paid, which is tomorrow.
In fact, it seemed like a good deal. It was either this or sleep in the car.
At least we have something over our head, and a lot of people, they don't have that. And it's really tough.
We're all filled up. All we have is a TV room.
Last night, it was 8 degrees in Oklahoma City, and you couldn't even find a bed at the Salvation Army. Every mission in town is booked up, and winos and down-and-outers are having to compete for space with former store managers from Peoria and with children.
We went through Idaho, Utah, then we hit Portland, Oregon. There was no work there, so.
Brian Latour, his brother and sister, haven't been in school for months. Their mother, Bernice, a secretary, finally found a job in Oklahoma City, but so far not a home.
You have to have like a month's rent and a deposit, and then some of them you have to have first and last month's rent plus deposit, so that's a lot of money.
During the Great Depression, people left here in droves looking for opportunity. 50 years later, some of their children are coming back. The whispers are getting louder. There's work in Oklahoma, but no one's saying it's easy. Steve Croft, CBS News, Oklahoma City.
Nobody serves our republic like Republic. Nobody flies our country like we do. From sea to shining sea, where would you like to be? Nobody serves as many cities just for you. Nobody serves the people like Republic. With a small town smile and a big city style, Republic goes all the way for you. Nobody serves our republic like Republic.
These are sheet fabric softeners. You put them in your dryer once and they do one load. This is Free and Soft, the revolutionary fabric softener. You put it in once and it does a month's worth of soft, static-free clothes. You attach Free and Soft to your dryer like this. Then every time you use your dryer, clothes come out soft and static-free. No sheet softeners stop static better. The choice is yours. Once-a-load softeners or Free and Soft, the once-a-month fabric softener.
The UN General Assembly this evening adopted a bitterly fought but non-binding resolution condemning Israel for its annexation of the occupied Golan Heights. The vote 86 to 21 with 34 abstentions. The United States voted against it. This resolution, sponsored by 46 non-aligned and communist nations, calls for aid, trade, and diplomatic sanctions against Israel. It also hints at a possible future expulsion of Israel from the UN. The rescue by Italian police last week of U.S. Army General James Dozier from his Red Brigade's kidnappers was the government's greatest victory over the 11-year-old terrorist group. The police, flushed with this victory, have mounted an unprecedented offensive against the brigades. The latest example of this was the discovery Wednesday of a huge terrorist arms cache, and with it were links to outside support of the Red Brigades. Larry Pentak reports from Verona.
The cache ranks as one of the largest ever uncovered in Italy, and investigators say it provides direct evidence of international support for the Red Brigades. The rockets, anti-tank guns, grenades, and machine guns form a powerful arsenal which police believe would have been turned against NATO as well as Italian targets. Like their colleagues in most of Italy's anti-terrorist squads, the men who uncovered the weapons wear masks when photographed to prevent retaliation. In all, 12 people were arrested in connection with the cache, including 2 believed to have ties with the Dozier kidnappers. A block of plastic explosive wrapped in an Arab newspaper provided one small clue to the origin of the weapons. Police say the investigation has revealed that Venice was the main entry point for weapons destined for the Red Brigades. Largely because of the Dozier investigation, police say the pieces in the Red Brigade's puzzle are finally fitting together. The brigades have been dealt a body blow, and precisely because of that, the authorities fear they'll strike again soon to try to regain their lost credibility. Larry Pintak, CBS News, Verona.
The State Department disclosed today that 5 Americans and 1 naturalized U.S. citizen are being held in Iranian jails without any charges filed against them. 5 of them were picked up in recent months, and 2 of them are women. Laker Airways, whose no-frills SkyTrain revolutionized transatlantic travel, announced today it is bankrupt and promptly closed down operations. 2,500 employees were suddenly without jobs, and thousands of passengers were stranded by the surprise action. More on the Laker collapse from John Blackstone in London.
Most of the Laker fleet, planes that were part of a revolution in air travel, sat idle this morning, circled in one corner of London's Gatwick Airport. Sir Freddie Laker's creation, the SkyTrain, brought bargain basement fares to transatlantic flying. It also set off a 4-year-long airline price war on flights between the United States and Europe. But the SkyTrain has been grounded by bankruptcy.
Took the trip because Freddie kept the prices down. However, here we are.
Passengers and staff milled around the airport, unable to believe perhaps that the airline folk hero, Freddie Laker, had indeed gone out of business.
Likes of us, he's brought the prices down, made the world available to us, whereas other airlines have not been able to do this.
Freddie Laker launched the SkyTrain in a flashy entrepreneurial style in 1977.
My name's Freddie Laker. I own Laker Airways, and I think it's outrageous what you have to pay to fly.
He sold transatlantic seats at half the going rate, but he had to fight legal battles with both the American and British governments to be able to do it. The flights were an immediate sellout, with people waiting sometimes for days to get aboard. By last year, Laker was carrying 25% of all transatlantic passengers, but the airline was sliding deeper into debt. Fuel costs, the falling value of the British pound sterling, and cutthroat competition from other airlines were all responsible. But Laker, in his bold style, kept expanding, until finally he couldn't pay his bills. Now, with Laker bankrupt, other airlines are expected to raise fares.
I don't think that the other big carriers, British Airways, TWA, Pan Am and Air Florida, are going to bring their prices down. You can be sure of that. Yeah. They only brought them down in the first place to compete with Laker. So my feeling is we know they're going to go up by 15%. I think they're going to go up some more.
By mid-afternoon, the last Laker flight had landed in London. The receivers were trying to decide whether any of the planes would ever fly under the Laker name again, or whether, more likely, they'd simply be sold off. Sir Freddie Laker was never shy until today, when he issued only a printed statement announcing the demise of his airline. He said he hoped the gains he'd made for ordinary passengers will not be lost. John Blackstone, CBS News, London.
The major U.S. airlines flying between New York and Florida today called a truce in their fare war. They announced they will almost double ticket prices. Starting March 1st, the one-way New York-Florida fare will jump from $70 to $135.
When was the last time you took a look? When was the last time you cooked your old friend cream of wheat? It's nice to know the goodness still remains. Even the package looks the same. It's as good as you remember cream of wheat. Remember the mornings you woke up to a light, smooth taste that let the flavor shine through. It's as good as you remember cream of wheat.
There's never been a better time to go first class. Because when you take retail delivery of a new Seville between now and March 31st, Cadillac will send you a $2,000 cash bonus. That's $2,000 if you act by March 31st. See your participating dealer now while there's still a good selection available. And drive Cadillac's finest, Seville.
Best of all, it's a Cadillac.
According to the Justice Department, there are more Soviet and Eastern Bloc spies operating in the United States now than ever before. As Mike Wallace has discovered, one such Soviet spy has turned up in a most unlikely place.
The General Accounting Office is the investigative arm of the Congress, and in that role it has access to certain classified information involving, among other things, weapon systems and the readiness of various units of our armed forces. Sensitive information, obviously. In January of 1979, it came to the attention of a clerk at the GAO that a Russian naval attaché had come into the building to ask for classified information that had not yet been officially published. A GAO investigator, Ralph Scherer, was assigned the task of finding out more. And what he found out became a source of dismay and embarrassment at the GAO.
Mr. Scherer, just what is it that you charge has taken place at the General Accounting Office?
It's a Soviet penetration of the GAO. In fact, Mike, January 1979, a Soviet intelligence officer went to GAO, requested a number of classified reports that hadn't been printed or issued. A subsequent counterintelligence investigation that myself and an FBI agent conducted clearly indicated, because of a subsequent visit, that this individual in fact had a source within the GAO providing him with those numbers and quite probably classified reports in addition to those he's getting across the counter.
The name of this Soviet agent?
Vladimir Kvasov.
Vladimir Kvasov, Soviet naval attaché, and, it turned out, a KGB agent. Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah has closely followed Ralph Scherer's investigation, and he believes Scherer's report is accurate.
Mr. Scherer is right.
Ralph Scherer is
That's right. That he at least obtained 5 basic classified reports or secret reports. And I happen to know that the Russians have many pieces of many mosaics, and they have a tremendous ability, as do others in the intelligence community for other nations in this world, to be able to put things together to make these documents extremely important to them. You know, this one has to do with Marine amphibious forces. Look at their readiness, role, and missions. Our understanding that Kvasov actually got a classified version of that. Here's another one on the readiness of U.S. Air Forces in Europe. Selected aspects and issues. That's our understanding. Kvasov got a classified version of that. These are important things. This isn't something that you just look at and say, oh my goodness, this is just another report by the government. These are important.
Roger Young, FBI spokesman, told us yesterday that the Scherer allegations and Senator Hatch's confirmation of them was considered crucial new information by top officials at the FBI. But today, Young amended that to say the FBI is now not sure this is new information, that what Scherer and Senator Hatch have turned up can be subject to different interpretations from the conclusions Hatch and Scherer have reached. But Senator William Roth of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence is calling for an investigation of lax security measures at the GAO. He is angered by the fact that his Senate committee heard nothing of these allegations until almost 3 years after they had surfaced at the GAO. We'll have more details next week. Mike Wallace, CBS News, New York.
Britain today became the first American ally to impose its own sanctions against Poland and the Soviet Union because of the Polish military crackdown. The British sanctions include a halt in new credits to Poland, tight controls on Soviet fishing ships in British waters, cutbacks in technical cooperation, and travel restrictions on Soviet diplomats, businessmen, and journalists.
It's the oldest question in the world.
What'll I have for dinner?
Well, Stouffer's has more than 40 different answers. 9 chicken dishes, 13 beef, 8 Italian dishes. We've got crepes, Chinese dishes, Japanese, Swedish, and of course, American. So if you're looking for answers, you ought to be looking at Stouffer's.
I know what I'm having for dinner. Stouffer's.
Set yourself free. Set yourself free with Stouffer's.
Home fires can get a good start before smoke reaches the smoke detector upstairs. Fire prevention experts agree one just isn't enough. First Alert, America's leading producer of smoke detectors, recommends this plan. 1 smoke detector on the basement ceiling, another on the main floor, and a 3rd upstairs. Your escape route should have the First Alert with escape light. The First Alert plan. The earlier the warning, the more time to escape.
Now there's a new traveling First Alert, too.
The state presented testimony from 119 witnesses building its case against Wayne Williams. He is accused of murdering 2 young Atlanta blacks and dumping their bodies in a river. Today, as Bruce Hall reports, the defense started assailing that testimony.
The Williams defense team began presenting its case today by immediately attacking the credibility of 2 prosecution witnesses. Those 2 police recruits who spotted Wayne Williams' car on the Jackson Parkway Bridge moments after hearing a loud splash in the river. Former police recruit Ken Lawson, who is no longer with the department, said the Jackson recruits told him, while on stakeout duty, they drank beer, saw ghosts, were scared of the dark, and that they sometimes stayed inside a pup tent and slept. Lawson also portrayed one of the state's witnesses, Nellie Trammell, as a psychic who frequently reported sightings and visions of the murdered youngsters after their bodies were found. Trammell testified earlier that she had seen victim Larry Rogers slumped over in Wayne Williams' car the day he disappeared. Another witness, New York pathologist Dr. Dan Stowens, said after reviewing the autopsies of Jimmy Ray Payne and Nathaniel Cater, he could find nothing to indicate their deaths were homicides. Defense attorneys say their case will take about 2 weeks. Their fiber expert, who has been given permission to work in the state's crime lab, is expected to challenge the heart of the prosecution's case, those 700 fibers. The attorneys say they will also attempt to present evidence that Wayne Williams was arrested because of political pressure and not because of the evidence in the case. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Atlanta.
6-year-old Robert Michael Goulet died of leukemia in December 1980 after treatment at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. Today, in that same hospital, the boy's father, Jean-Claude Goulet, held 3 hostages at gunpoint for a second day. They are Dr. Paul Bowen, head of the hospital's leukemia service, said to have been the little boy's favorite doctor, Jean Marie Cox, his favorite nurse, and a psychologist, Joe Cummings. Earlier, Goulet released another doctor in exchange for food. Dr. Bowman said Goulet was trying to get over the message that leukemia research is focused in the wrong direction.
Now till February 13th at Sears, the fitness store. Save $50 on Sears 1,000-pound total capacity weight bench. Save $20 on our 177-pound weight set. Or save $30 on Sears 20-inch exercise wheel cycle. Save $30 on a Lifestyler 1000 home fitness system. Save 20% on Wilson sweat separates. For fun, fitness, and savings, you can count on Sears.
The National Centers for Disease Control today reported that there were more than 1.2 million legal abortions in this country in 1979, the last year for which figures are available. That's a rate of almost 1 abortion for every 3 live births. The center said that for the first time since statistics have been kept, there were no reported deaths that year as the result of illegal abortions, in spite of the cutoff in federal funds for Medicaid abortions. A spokesman said state and local governments and private sources apparently made up for the loss in federal funds. It's hard for most of us to even imagine the daily problems faced at the complex space-age facility. So how do the engineers find the answers? Well, as Barry Peterson reports, a little birdie tells them.
It is the highest of high tech, the Lockheed Space and Missile Facility, where they design and build things like tiles for the space shuttle, missiles for submarines. Here, technology is king. But they had a problem. How to transport this microfilm the 25 miles from the main computer to a small mountainside plant where engineers need it to work on design drawings. So every morning, if the weather is good, a carrier pigeon is wheeled out, the capsule attached, the bird ready. All systems are go.
We'll call it a launch. We launched the bird.
They laughed at first. No one thought the idea would fly. It did. At the other end, Werner Digg waits. He commands the Lockheed Pigeon Squadron, about a dozen birds now. Human couriers to carry the film would cost $50 a day. This whole operation runs for the cost of the bird feed, $50 a year.
We've had one bird come in 3 days, as a matter of fact, where it got trapped in a bad storm. And it set out the storm in a, probably on a tree somewhere. And then when the sun came back out, he could orientate himself, and he came back.
On this day, the courier made the flight in 40 minutes, coming home to roost. Company officials say only non-classified material is shipped via carrier pigeon. After all, the worry here is not about foreign spies, but hawks that might attack the birds. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Sunnyvale, California.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Bob Schieffer will be here tomorrow. Dan Rather reporting from New York, and hoping you have a good weekend.
We'll be ready for you in 2 minutes.
Okay. Hi, you've seen us in Amway commercials, and perhaps you thought, well, they're just actors.
We are, but we're also earning extra income as Amway distributors. Like all 1 million Amway distributors, we run our own independent business, built our own sales organization.
Right now, we'd like to show you some of the things that make being an Amway distributor very special.
Like making new friends. Amway distributors offer home care products, food supplements, housewares, and personal care items to our friends and neighbors.
And friends recommend others.
Before you know it, Amway distributors make new friends they'd never have met without Amway.
It's not surprising that people are curious about Amway.
Amway distributors tell them the whole story, show friends how to work toward financial independence as Amway distributors.
That's how Amway distributors build an organization of their own. As they do, Amway distributors win higher awards as their businesses grow. Here's what can really happen. As an Amway distributor, you simply build your business as large as you want to reach your idea of success.
And for many Amway distributors, success means a better life, the joy of helping others, and the satisfaction of being recognized for what you've accomplished.
Cut. Beautiful take.
Isn't the world of Amway an exciting place to be?
And you can be part of it.
It's easy. Just listen when an Amway distributor wants to tell you more.
Maybe you'll decide that Amway's the opportunity you've been looking for all your life.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. These stations have provided tape to the CBS Evening News tonight.
Tomorrow on CBS Sports, dazzling beauty and explosive speed on ice. Plus, the pros and celebrities tee it up at the Bing Crosby National Pro-Am tomorrow on CBS Sports.
This is CBS.
The standoff continues at St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, where an armed man is holding 3 hostages. We'll have details next on Eyewitness News.
At the Cracker Barrel Old Country Store, we've got us a brand new idea that's about 150 years old. Our new country dinner plates are the way folks have been eating country cooking for a long time. A choice from 3 meats put together with 2 country cooked vegetables and hot buttery scratch biscuits. All at the kind of value that was easy to find yesterday, but right hard to find